Wicked ones, welcome back to my channel. It's Willow Wicked here. Like I said in my previous video, I said that I was going to be going over It Parts 1. Apparently I'm going over Parts 1 and 2 because I watched the director's cut, and if you didn't know, the It that came out in 1990 came out in 2 parts. It was a mini-series starring Tim Curry, who also plays in Rocky Horror Picture Show. So if you haven't watched that movie, I would definitely go ahead and tell you to go watch it because it's a classic. I do want to apologize about my last video. My audio wasn't the best. I don't know how it's going to be this video. I'll find out after I make it. This is my second time doing this video because the audio for the first time I did this one was not good. So I'm redoing it. And before we get into this, I do want to say a disclaimer. There is self-harm in this video and suicide. So if that's something that you're not comfortable with, you take care of yourself, and I will see you at the next one. With that being said, let's get into it. Our movie starts off with one of our main characters, Bill, and his younger brother, George. Bill has ended up making Georgie a little paper boat for him to sail in the little puddles at in front of his house. However, when Georgie goes outside, his boat falls into a storm drain and is collected by it. It convinces Georgie to put his hand down the sewer drain so he can retrieve his boat. But this is a trick for by it, so he can lure him, so he can eat him. So it ends up ripping Georgie's arm off and eats him. We fast forward a little bit to after Georgie's death, and we go back to Bill and his friends, and they're all kind of doing their own thing. We are introduced into our second main character, Ben, and he just moved to the town of Derry. He's not making a lot of friends. He ends up getting bullied by this group, and the main bully is Henry. So he ends up running away from Henry and his gang and stumbles upon Bill and his friends. I believe it's Bill, Eddie, and Stan at this point. So he asked if they can help hide him from these bullies, and the bullies catch up to Bill's group asking where Ben was, and they lie, sending them in a different direction. So at this point, Ben ends up becoming friends with Bill and his friends, and they start to hang out. This is when the kids of the group start experiencing it by they each have their own individual encounters with him before they start to talk about it. I'll go over 2 of them, which I believe to be the most classic of them. The first one is the shower scene, which is when Eddie is forced to take a shower after PE class, and it starts talking to him through the shower drain and ends up like stretching it like some sort of cartoon trick out of Looney Tunes, and just shows his scary ass teeth. And as rightfully so, Eddie just books it. Our second encounter would be with Beverly, who just got home from school, and she goes to her bathroom, washes up, and then as she walks out, she hears voices of kids coming from this drain in the sink, and eventually a balloon filled with blood comes out of the sink and pops, sprays the room with a lot of blood. Beverly runs out screaming, gets her dad, and her dad can't see the blood or hear its voice. So from this we can kind of speculate that only the kids of Derry can actually see its presence. This is when we get introduced to our last kid of the group, Mike. So as of right now, we got Bill, Mike, Stan, Eddie, Beverly, and Bill, Mike, George. Anyways, we're introduced to Mike. He ends up getting bullied by Henry and ends up making a run for it. However, he runs into Billy and his friend. They're all at the their little this little construction site, I guess you could say, where there's a lot of like debris and rubble. Mike ends up running towards them, and they end up fighting, helping him fight off the bullies. And after this, the bullies end up making their run for it, and they end up basically asking Mike if they want to, be friends, and they end up dubbing themselves as the Loser Club. So they end up hanging out and taking like, cute group pictures. And this is when we find out that Mike was doing a lot of research of the town in Derry. And we find out that in 1930 there was a group of settlers that settled in Derry, but they ended up all disappearing. All, I think 253 of them all vanished without a trace. So this is when we find out a little bit about its backstory. We find out that he is somewhat of an entity or something, and he has been here for a very long time, and this is not his first time feasting on this town. The kids start to gather that this entity is what has been terrorizing the town and most likely killed Georgie. So Bill kind of has this kind of internal regret where he feels like he's obligated to defeat Pennywise. At this point, our group is starting to form a plan to attack it, and they form a plan. Really isn't a plan at all. It's just using made silver bullets to put in a slingshot, and that's really all they got. So they end up heading down to the sewers. They actually end up getting followed by the bullies, Henry and his gang. Henry ends up kidnapping Stan and tries to kill him, but it intervenes and ends up killing his two henchmen, I guess you could say, his two friends. And as Stan makes a run for it, we find out that these lights can not only kill you, but somewhat daze you or hypnotize you. So Henry looks into this light that just killed these two kids. And we don't see much other than his face scared, and his hair is now like completely white, and that's all we see of Henry. Stan ends up making his way back to the gang, but it is pursuing Stan, so they end up making their final stand here. This is when the group starts to form a circle, and it tries to get them to separate by casting illusions on them. He acts like Ben's father, who died in the war. He acts like Beverly's father, who's abusive. None of these tricks work until he straight up describes Stan. But then Eddie walks up to him and says that his inhaler is battery acid, which actually does end up burning Pennywise's face like clean off. And then this is when Beverly makes her shot. She ends up hitting him square in the head and cracking his skull open. And at this point, it makes a run for it and actually ends up escaping. The kids make it back to the surface, and this is when they declare that if it comes back, that they will return. And this is where It Part 2 takes place. I'm going to just lightly breeze over it because there was a lot of like back and forth in the video. So there's a lot that I'm just going to skip over because, in my opinion, Part 2 is not as exciting as Part 1. So we start off with Bill getting a call from Mike saying that it's back. Bill is immediately freaking out, and he used to have a stammer as a child that he got rid of, but it instantly comes back hearing this news. So he packs up and goes to Derry, as long as everyone else. However, Stan doesn't pack immediately. When he gets his call, Stan just goes and takes a shower, and that's all we really see of Stan. At this point, the gang is trying to make their way to Derry, and as they do so, they all have their own individuals with it again, kind of like in Part 1. I'm only going to go over one encounter, which is Beverly's, and I'm going to go over this briefly. She went and visited her father's house, which she thought he still lived there. Turns to find out there's this older lady who she is nice enough to invite Beverly in for a nice cup of tea just so she can, reminisce in the memories of her old home. We end up finding out this old lady is it playing a trick on Beverly, and Beverly ends up running out of the house, and she finds out that the house is just completely dilapidated. No one's in it, and it's just completely run down. So we find out that her father isn't even in the home. So I thought that was kind of funny. So then they all meet up at this restaurant. This is where I'm going to give my 2 cents because I don't know why they put this in the movie, but when they all meet up, Beverly's the last one to walk into the room. But when she walks into the room, all the emotions start flooding back all at once. She kind of passes out at the restaurant. So then she wakes up, and tell me why her first reaction is to kill Bill. Kill Bill. Kiss Bill and Eddie on the lips. Well, meanwhile, she gives everyone like a warm hug. And Ben is standing there still with the fat crush on her. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, Bill has a crush on Beverly. Girl, what? That just made no sense to me. Girl, like, what are you doing? After this, they kind of realize Stan isn't here, so they kind of just like brush it aside, like maybe he's late. So they go and eat dinner without him. And at this point, they're all having a little montage. They're all, kikiing and tea, you know, and at the end of it, you get your fortune cookie because I think they went to some China buffet or whatever. They get their fortune cookies, and every fortune cookie that they get is like messed up. Like Beverly's is filled with blood. Um, Another guy's has a bird fetus on it. Like it's just weird. And so they all freak out, rightfully so, and leave. They head to Mike's job, which is the library, and this is where they find out that Stan actually unalived himself in the bathroom shower with razors. The group is obviously distraught. However, it shortly after this starts messing with them psychologically by sending illusions of just like Stan's severed head in the fridge, just like a bunch of just messed up stuff. So they end up leaving the library and going to a hotel. Now, this is where I'm going to take the time to talk about Henry. They find his friends, the two that were killed in the events prior. No one really knew what happened, but apparently Stan had admitted to the murders, so he was admitted into like a prison or a psych ward. At this point, it is manipulating Henry into escaping by giving him a knife. Somehow, Henry makes it to the hotel, and as the loser club make their way to try and fight it, he makes his way into Mike's room somehow and stabs Mike. And in this tuffle, the loser clubs hear this, fight go on and help Mike. But in this, fighting, Henry ends up stabbing himself and he ends up dying. They end up rushing Mike to the hospital, and this is when we find out Mike went into the sewers many years ago alone after the group had left to recover the silver rocks that Bev had used on it. However, they could only find, I think they only found two. Um, So this is when they start to make their advances to the sewers, and they see its real form, which is like a crab spider thing, which I really don't understand. So this is where they start to put on a fight. However, as soon as this fight starts, Ben, Eddie, and Bill are all they all end up looking into the deadlights and get hypnotized. Eddie, being the brave one, goes in front of them, not looking at the deadlights, kind of like turning his head away. And just like in the first movie, squirts him in the face, but it does nothing other than piss Pennywise off. So he gets picked up by his claws, and as this is happening, Beverly tries to look for the shot that she had missed prior, because in the beginning of the fight she made her shot but missed. So she ends up receiving or finding the silver bullet and hitting Pennywise dead in the chest, and this injures him really bad. Eddie gets thrown, and it makes another run for it. This is where we find out Eddie slowly succumbs to his injuries and passes away. With no other choice, the group has to continue on without Eddie. So now there is 4 of them. Now this is where it kind of like threw me for a whirl, because when they find it, I thought there would be like another second. No, they just go and mob his ass. They just go and kick him in the stomach and then just start going ham. And at the end, they rip his heart out and they just raise it into the sky like it's some sort of weird ritual. It was really weird. I did forget to mention that Bill's wife did end up following Bill all the way into Derry, but getting kidnapped by it and looking into the deadlights. So after they kill it, they rescue Bill's wife, and they kind of have like they kind of go their just they say like their goodbyes and they kind of go their different way, and the movie ends with Bill getting his wife's like conscious back because when you look into the deadlights, we know that you kind of become an empty shell, but she was able to come back from that. So that was a little touching moment. But the movie just kind of abruptly ends there. And that is it, part 1 and 2. So I really hope you guys liked this video. I apologize if my audio is not good. Um, if it's not good, I probably won't be using this thing. I'll probably get something else within the distant future. Um, let me know your thoughts and feelings on this video. Did you watch it? Did you not watch it? Did you watch the remake that came out in 2017? I watched both of them. I do like the original more. It's a classic. I don't think anyone can remake it and have it be better than the original, especially because it's starring Tim Curry. I mean, him as it in himself, he's phenomenal. I don't know what movie I want to do next. I have an idea. I don't want to say it quite yet because I haven't looked at where the streaming for this is, and I'm not too sure if I want to do it yet. I'm thinking about a couple other movies, but if you want to keep, stay updated, follow me on my socials. I'll post it on my link tree on my bio. Follow me on TikTok, Instagram. I'd love to see you guys there. And I hope you guys take care of yourself until the next one. Stay wicked, everybody. Bye.